What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan and I am back with another preview video, and this time it is for Bellator 298, which goes down on August the 11th over in the United States in Sioux Falls in South Dakota. And it is a card which doesn't have a title on the line, which is somewhat unusual for these big Bellator cards, but it does have a few, I suppose, what you would call maybe title eliminators, or just fights that are around the top of the division anyway. And it's an interesting time for Bellator, I suppose, because we know that the situation Bellator finds itself at the moment is kind of in flux, and maybe even by the time this video comes out there could be news. You never know, but there's only two cards lined up at the moment, the one I'm going to speak about here, and then Bellator 299 in Dublin as well. And I suppose it's tough for the fighters and tough for everyone, I suppose, in the situation, kind of like live in this bit of limbo. But still, you would hope that Bellator will go on. You would hope that Bellator will live, and all these number one contender fights, wherever it might be, might matter. And they matter because like they're getting paid and it's got on their record and everything as well, but matter in a divisional sense down the line. And I was going to say there, I'm sure they will, but like it's. I'm not sure I will, but so we will wait and see on that. But I saw someone talking there on Twitter during the week. Was it an ex-fighter, an MMA manager, or something like that? And they kind of said it'd be an awful shame if Bellator did go away. Now I'm talking here as if Bellator is going away. I don't know that at all, but I'm just musing here for a second. And I really think it would be a very bad thing. Like sometimes Bellator, can be the butt of the jokes, and the way they do things, at certain times is not great, and especially in the past, before the Scott Coker era, it had every right to be a butt of a lot of jokes, but it has improved since then. But at the same time, like, where else is given the long-standing number two to the UFC? Where else has been a place where fighters could go? The likes of even a Phil Davis a good few years ago, or Ryan Bader, or MVP to have a whole career there, or Michael Chandler, or Eddie Alvarez and all. Like, there has been nowhere ever as good as it. Like, I'm now previewing Bellator's 298 card. I think there's probably been a few more. There's probably been a few Bellator fight nights or something. Actually, I think you can see here on Sherdog.com. Let me just check that out. Yeah, 306 events Bellator have held. So there has been a few more over that, according to Sherdog.com. So, that would be a real pity if that went away. And especially I'm sitting here in Ireland, and what Bellator has done for Irish MMA over the last few years has been absolutely astounding. Like the fights they have given to the likes of Peter Cauley and James Gallagher, who we'll talk about obviously on this card, but Kiefer Crosby, Will Fleury, giving them good money and good placements on cards and filled out Irish arenas. It's been fantastic. So I hope Bellator stays around, and especially for Irish MMA, and for myself even. Come on, Bellator, I need stuff to talk about. Stay around. So, but anyway, let's concentrate on this card and let's talk about that as well. And maybe over the coming weeks, we will talk more about the Bellator situation on the Bellator previews, but also maybe on other podcasts as well, if deemed fit. Right, the main event here: Logan Storley versus Brennan Ward. And honestly, when I first heard this fight, I was thinking, like, are they really making this fight? I was honestly like a little bit shocked, because when you're looking at Bellator and you're looking at kind of the way they do things, they are usually pretty good at separating, I suppose, the top ranked guys, in terms of like who's going to be, and like literally in the rankings, with the guys maybe who are having the fun fight, like down through the years anyway, having the fun fights, or whatever it might be, being brought into for a certain reason or whatever it might be. And not to say that Brennan Ward is that, but it felt like, and I don't know if people would agree with me, but it felt like that has been his way since he came back, and that he was, I don't know if he was coming back to make a run at the title, but he was more so coming back to have some really fun fights. please the hometown crowd, and there's absolutely, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I'm just looking at the rankings here. He is ranked number 7 in the welterweight rankings. Logan Storley is ranked number 1, so maybe I'm a little bit far off. Maybe that was just my thinking, but I've spoken to a few people about it as well, and I think they viewed it the same way. Like, if you look at who Brennan Ward has fought since he came back, like the Brandon Bell, the Cassius Kane fights were very much, I'm going to be fighting to have the last few fights of my career type of thing. But that's not at all the case. Like, at 35 years of age, he came in, he fought Sabah Homasi, a fight which I think a lot of people were very excited about back in February of this year. And he put him out of there in the second round. And I think maybe that was the change. Maybe that was the change in, maybe we adjust expectations and we're looking for something a little bit different now. And I'm not necessarily saying that is the case from Brennan Ward, right? But maybe from Bellator, and maybe idiots like me are sitting down to preview it and everyone watching at home as well. So this is where we are right now. For Logan Storley, it's the other side of it, really, isn't it? For Logan, like, Logan is a guy who has been there or thereabouts for a good long while. I was obviously at his last fight against Yaroslav Amosov, where Amosov just put an absolute schooling on him. Like, and I think Amosov probably would have put a schooling on anyone that day, if I'm being honest. Like, I made a joke there a couple of weeks ago on Twitter. There was a picture of Leon Edwards, and they were like, "Oh, look, the best welterweight in the world is at Cage Warriors," or whatever it was. And I was like, "Oh, Yaroslav Amosov is like Cage Warriors, is he?" And like, I think, like, there's definitely an argument that Amosov is the best welterweight in the world, right? So for Storley to have kind of come up short against him is a place where you need really to fight back from. And it's going to take a while to fight back from, because people don't forget about those fights, right? And I should say as well, as I take part in this preview here, we kind of just have to act like Bellator is going to continue and they're going to have lots of more fights, or else I'll just be stopping and saying nothing here. So let's keep that in mind. But I think for Storley, with all that said, he's going to have to win probably 2, 3 or 4 fights in a row to get back to that spot if Amosov keeps that title. Now, with MVP seemingly gone, but you'd never know what happens in over the next few weeks, as I said, with everything going on. Like, will MVP be back? He obviously beat MVP, but a very controversial decision. I thought MVP won the fight. And put that all together, with the Nyman Gracie win, and with, I suppose, the close fight against Amosov before, maybe, even reading his record here, I'm looking down to it and I'm like, oh yeah, he lost the second time. Now, that was even closer that time, and I think a lot of people maybe could have argued that he won that fight. It was one, there wasn't much scoring in it. So, all in all, I think it's a massive fight for Logan Storley. Like, the Ward side of it is pretty straightforward, right? He came back, had 2 very good wins, and then had one amazing win, maybe that people didn't expect, and now he's like taking it to the next level. Like, this is maybe a place where he or his fans or his team maybe even never expected him to get back to, because he was out for 5 years. People maybe, I know people don't forget that, but it was 2017, Bellator 182 was his last fight before the 3 I just mentioned, and then it was Bellator 274 at the start of 2022 was his next fight. So this is all bonus territory for him, and he's going in there against Logan Storley, and if he looks at it like that, he could be a very dangerous man in there, because their styles are interesting ones. Like, and my whole reason why I started off this preview and said I was a little bit shocked that this fight was made was because of that clash of styles. Storley is a wrestler, and a very, very good wrestler. Storley's wrestling is, second to none, maybe in welterweight mixed martial arts. Maybe you could say it's up there anyway. Now maybe there's a few lads around there, like he wrestled pretty well with Amosov the first time, that didn't really turn into one in the second one, but having spoken to Ian Gary before, and he spoke about working with Logan Storley, and man, he's a fantastic wrestler. There's absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. Was able to hold MVP down for almost all of their fight, and also the other side of it then, Brennan Ward. Like, Brennan is a very good, well-rounded fighter. Look, you only have to look at the way he's won fights over the years to see what type of fighter he is. 12 knockouts out of 17 wins, you know? And 6 of his losses have been by submission. 4 of his 6 losses have been by submission, the other by TKO, the other 2 by TKO. So he is more of a guy and we know it, he's a stand and bang, I'm going to stop your takedown and I'm going to knock you out merchant. And that is brilliant. That's an unbelievable style. But is that style going to be able to succeed against someone like Storley, who is such a good wrestler and such a dominating wrestler? It's going to be hard for me to see that. And the other side of it, and as I said, the reasoning behind my opinion of this fight initially is that you're kind of taking the fun out of Brendan Ward a little bit by putting him into this matchup. Although if he can stop that takedown, the fun quickly comes back into it. But look, it could be a lot of fun for Logan Storley if he's to get the fight to the ground, I suppose. Look, if you're Brendan Ward, what do you need to do here? It's pretty simple, I think. Strong hips. Push Logan Storley down. If he gets you against the cage, the first thing you need to do, like, you know, the great takedown defense, whether it is inside, you need to get that underhook on one side, the wrist control, and turn him off. Or you need, before that, if he gets low, or if he's coming in low, push that head down and just get your legs out of there and move away from him. Like, he is one of those kind of old school low down wrestlers who'll drag you to the ground, you know, Ben Askren style at times. And you have to be immediate in your defense of that. If you're not, he will chain wrestle you for days. Like I spoke about it on a preview last week, that, you know, watching a lot of the One Championship stuff, there are a few ex-Muay Thai guys, a few ex-kickboxers, and even watching Alex Pereira fighting in the UFC, you see that these lads have good takedown defense up until a point against good wrestlers. Now, I'm not putting Brendan Ward in with him, I'm just making a point here for a second. But why do they have good takedown defense up until a point, right? They can stop the initial takedown. They've worked in that throughout camp all the time, and then they get to a position where they have achieved what they want to achieve, but the opponent hasn't. And that opponent, if it's a strong wrestler, will continue to go at it, you know, will continue to do what they need to do to drag the fight to the ground. And when you're a fighter like that, you have achieved your goal, but now you're starting a whole new fight against the cage, and that's the fight that the wrestler is used to fighting, and you often get taken down. And if you put yourself in that position, to bring this back around to this fight, if you put yourself in that position against Logan Storley, even if you stop the initial takedown, you need to break away, because he will take you down at the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth or seventh try. He will. He just will. If he can chain wrestle you, keep you against that cage, you're going down, or you're getting held there for a long time anyway. And then either you'll get out, or the referee will break you up and he's straight back at it again, because it's been a long time there. So that's the key for Ward. Not only stop the takedown, break away immediately. If he can do that, he can knock any man at 170 pounds on this planet out, no problem. No, absolutely no problem. Like, Storley's striking, I would say, has improved over the years. And like, if it turns into a boxing match, I don't think he will just get sparked in a minute or whatever. I think he can hold his own there. I would favour Brendan Ward, make no mistake about it. And if it was to go the whole, it's 25 now, isn't it? Yeah, if it was to go the whole 25 minutes on the feed, I would definitely favour Brendan Ward to get the finish inside of that 25 minutes if it stayed on the feed throughout. But I don't think so. My prediction, as we tend to do, put up the Bellator preview on predictions. My prediction is Logan Storley. I just don't think Ward will be able to stop the takedown. And I think Storley will probably get a late finish. I think Ward might struggle with the pace that Storley's going to put on him, and I think maybe he'll try really hard in the third or fourth round and end up maybe giving up a back and getting submitted or something like that. So yeah, that's how I see it going in this one. A heavyweight, and that really, look, is it a number one contender bout? It's probably not a number one contender bout, because Jason Jackson's obviously out there for Amosov. But after that, like, MVP is gone now. I thought he'd be the next guy in line. unless he comes back, and we'll see about that then. But you know, if Logan Storley wins, okay, as I said, I might need a couple more. If Brennan Ward wins and he beats Logan Storley, who is, let me just look at the rankings here again, number 1 ranked. It's very hard to say he's not getting the next title shot after that then, isn't it? I know Koreshkov won last week against Lorenz Larkin, so he's thereabouts as well, but a massive win here for Lima if he can get it. Sorry, not Lima, for Brennan Ward if he can get it. And it's bombs away for the Irish. Brennan Ward after that. Maybe I wonder would they think of doing the title fight in Ireland if that did happen. I'd love to see it, so let's do. And do you know what, that actually makes so much sense, because Amosov was kind of such a big star when he came to Ireland as well. If it was him versus Brennan Ward, that'd be massive. And not to write off Jason Jackson or anything, because he's a very good fighter, and hopefully that happens sooner rather than later as well. Right. Another fight to talk about, and this is also, you know, a fight that I think more than likely will be the number 1 contender matchup at heavyweight, with possibly Linton Vassell getting the nod just before him, considering what he's done over the last while. And this is a rematch between Valentin Moldavsky and Steve Tall Mowry of their fight, which happened in August of last year. Obviously, that one ended in 54 seconds, so not much to talk about in terms of what happened in that one or anything. But I went back and I looked at my preview of that one just so I wouldn't say things that are maybe completely the opposite here. And honestly, my thought process back then was the same as the thought process now, which is, this is a pretty even fight. It's a massive test for Mowry stepping up against a really, really, really good guy. And for Valentin Moldavsky, it's a massive test against one of the tallest, as his name would suggest, and best up-and-comers in the world. Funnily enough, they're practically the same age, only a few months between them, but it feels like, you know, Moldavsky 14 fights into his career, Mowry 10, but Moldavsky has been to the motherfucking mountaintop, as a famous rapper once said. And you know, he's done it all. But it's weird, you know, this, when we came into it, right, the first time, Moldavsky had lost to Bader, but he'd been on an unbelievable run before that. Like, his only loss was to Amir Ali Akbari, who's one of the top heavyweights now, funnily enough, in one championship back in 2016. You know, he'd beaten the who's who around that, and obviously Mowry undefeated. But since that fight, they've both fought once. Mowry fought Ali Asiev and drew after looking very good early, and then absolutely gassed out of nowhere. And Linton Vassell, the aforementioned Linton Vassell, took Moldavsky out in somewhat shocking fashion in their fight at Bellator 292. This is a massive, massive fight for both of them. I said, you know, Linton Vassell is obviously the number 1 contender now, more than likely. We'll see what happens. You know, unless maybe they're all in the tournament next week, who knows? But this will be probably the guy to decide. I think especially if it's Mowry. I think that first fight was kind of, you know, not that they'd hope either guy would win, but they probably said, look, if Mowry can win here, we have another matchup for Ryan Bader, and that would be a very interesting one considering how big Mowry is and all. But again, I think if he wins here, he'll probably be in pole position for that spot. But what, like, I don't know that you know what, we did learn an awful lot from those two fights, but I don't know that we learn an awful lot in terms of how this fight is going to go from those two fights. Like, I think everyone knew that if Moldavsky pushes the pace and it's a long pace and it's 15 grueling minutes, that will favour him over Mowry. Now, after watching Mowry's fight against Asiev, maybe we think that, and we probably do think, and we should think that even more, considering how he tired in that one. But then at the other side of it, you're thinking, like, if Mowry can get going, if he can get, like, he's an unbelievable athlete for the size of him, if he can get everything going against Moldavsky, maybe he'll be able to get that big knockout like Vassell did. So it almost the first initial analysis of this fight is almost you know, under the microscope for this fight. Like, the ways that both guys can win are now bigger than they were before. The exact same analysis, but in just a more clear way. So who's going to win the fight? Who knows? Is probably the reaction to that one. Like, you can look at that, right, and you can say Mowry can fix the issues with his cardio. And it was a weird one, the way the fight went as well. It's been 6 months now. Like, how much of that can you fix? I don't know. That's definitely not a question for me anyway. I wouldn't know much about that. But with Moldavsky, you know, the heavy enough knockout, how can you fix the openings that he showed? And other interesting questions. All in all, I can't remember who I picked the first time, because I went back and I watched it and I was like, I'm very stuck in it. I think I picked Mowry the first time, I'll be honest. I'm going to pick Moldavsky this time. And it's for 2 reasons, right? Here are my 2 reasons. I think after getting knocked out in the last fight, I think he'll be a lot more defensive in this fight. And I think that the cardio issues that Mowry showed in the last fight will play into that. Maybe he'll be less willing to go for something big early, and it'll become a Moldavsky paced fight. And if it does, he's very hard. Like Nimkov, another one like that, out of the same camp and everything. They're very, very hard once you get into their fight. And you see this a lot with top fighters. They're not out of the same camp, but Usman or Magomedov as well. If you fight him at a certain pace, he will fight you at that pace and beat you there. But if you allow him to fight at a pace that is just a controlling pace, he will control you all day long and twice on Saturday. And I feel like that's just how this is going to go. Like we'll watch the betting show later on in the week. We'll discuss that. But this could be Moldavsky via decision. And plus, if you look at Moldavsky's record, 11 wins, 7 decisions. And 2 of his 3 losses, have gone to a decision. So 9 decisions in 14 fights for a heavyweight. That's absolutely massive. So we'll wait and see on that one. Right. The next fight I want to talk about, I want to talk about James Gallagher against James Gonzalez. Look, for James Gallagher, it is an absolutely massive fight. 11-2 now in his career, which, people probably look at and go, 11-2, James Gallagher, really? It feels like James Gallagher has been on an awful run or something, but he hasn't really. He's only lost, 1 fight in a row. He was on a 4-fight win streak before that, and then it was a Ricky Bandejas loss. But the problem for James is 2023, no fights so far. 2022, no fights. 2021, 1 fight. 2020, 1 fight. And now he had 3 great fights in 2019, but he only 1 fight in 2018 as well. It's been a real tough ride for James Gallagher over the last while. It really, really has. And you'd feel sorry for him, being around James a lot with, covering these Bellator cards and all. I think people have the wrong, the wrong thoughts on James. He's a really nice guy, and he tries really hard, a real family guy, and all of that. And, I think a lot of people would like to see James doing well, and I'll put myself down as one of those people. I would love to see him doing well, and even if it's not doing well, let's say, and we'll take all the bias out of it, just like to see James get a bit of a run, like to see him achieve his goals, or achieve, or at least get the chance to achieve his goals. And I feel like he hasn't got that over the years. It's been very, very unfortunate. As I said, he got in there against Ricky Bandejas in a big step up, I suppose, from the likes of Chinzo Machida and others as well. And he lost that fight, fair enough. He made no excuses after that, went back on a 4-fight win streak. So many cancelled fights still around that. But then he got in there against Patchy Mix. And you know what? I was at that fight as well. He was doing relatively well in that fight. What is it? 18 months ago, 19 months ago or so, maybe a little bit longer. And look how good Patchy Mix is now. To be fair, if you're to rate James Gallagher based on that last Patchy Mix fight, people probably would have to readjust what they think of James Gallagher as a fighter. He's had this problem as well, with the James Krause thing. We spoke about that, and obviously the betting show multiple times at this stage. He's been training. He's been back in Ireland for a while. I think he was over in Thailand as well and stuff. So the training has been it's tough. It's tough. Is he getting the requisite training? Has he found somewhere stable? It's been a really tough time for James Gallagher. Really tough time for James Gallagher. And obviously his opponent Chris Linsoni as well. Best of luck to him and his recovery and all. He's obviously had a really tough time. If people haven't seen that, you can Google it. He's had some terrible health problems over the last while after an incident that happened to him a few months ago. So best wishes to him and all. And James has said that as well. So even for obviously it's not the same, but for James it's been another change, I suppose, in a tumultuous few years. And now he's going to be fighting James Gonzalez, who is a guy who is a very well-rounded fighter as well. Fought Aaron Pico last time out. And the one thing I would say about Gonzalez is I suppose he's had what James maybe hasn't had. He's had 2 fights this year alone, 2 fights last year, 2 fights 2021, 2 fights 2022. And he's fought and beaten some very good guys. Like he's beaten Pat Sabatini, who I rate very highly. He's beaten Cody Law, who's a very good prospect. And, he came up short, obviously, against Aaron Pico, which a lot of people will. But, he didn't do himself any shame in that fight, I don't think. Fighting out a Longo Weidman MMA as well. He's going to be well-schooled and he's going to be a very, very good fighter coming in here. I'm very interested to see how it goes. Like watching a bit of Gonzalez, he's a well-rounded fighter. He can strike, he can wrestle, he can do it all. I like to look at it from the Gallagher point of view, maybe more this fight, because I think Gallagher came out in his last fight and he was definitely striking more. His striking looked better, but look, it wasn't the elite you'd be looking for. But there was a significant improvement, I would say, on the past fights. If that improvement has continued, and now the years have passed and trainers have passed and everything like that, we don't know how is he going to look and how is he going to fight this time. We know if James gets you to the ground, it's going to be a very tough night for you. Like, I don't think anyone would acknowledge that James isn't a very, very good submission artist. If he can get you there, he'll be very good. Like, has his wrestling improved? We don't know. We really, really don't know, and I'm excited to see it. I'm really excited to see it, and I think this should be a very, very good fight. It's really hard to pick this fight. Like, I think if James can get the fight to the ground, he'd probably be able to get the submission. Will he fight that way even though? I'm not too sure. So, I think it'll probably be a longer fight if he does get... Well, James, if he can get it early, he can get a submission early, but maybe he'll be able to get it late or something like that. I don't know. I'm finding it hard to pick this one. I'm going to go for Gallagher by a third round submission. There you go. Ray Longo will probably kill me now, but I've great love and respect for that gym and all the fighters coming out of there as well. Right, this preview could go on for an hour here, so I better run through some of these fights as well. Another fight I'm looking forward to just above that is a middleweight fight between Dalton Rosta and Aaron Jeffery. Rosta is one of these guys who now at 27 years of age, coming out of the wrestling background, I suppose you want to go for want of a better phrase. Training American top team. Beat Romero Cotton a couple of fights ago, beat Anthony Adams last time out in the pretty big Stotts versus Sabatello card. Now it's a change, I suppose, in trajectory against a guy with 17 fights into his career, 30 years of age. Fought a guy in John Salter who had fought for the title last time out, and Austin Vanderford the time before that, and beat him. So this is a massive, massive fight, I think, for Dalton Rosta. Look, I think he'll be well able for it. We've seen him get a few knockouts. We've seen him go along and go to a decision as well. I just think the wrestling's going to be too strong. I think he's going to take Jeffery down, and I fancy Rosta to win that fight. I think the exact same probably goes for me for Sidney Outlaw versus Islam Mamedov. Now, Mamedov isn't all about the wrestling and all that. He can fight well rounded, but you look at his record and he's 10 submissions out of his 22 wins. His fight against Benson Henderson was an interesting one, and we'll show you maybe how he can be beat, but I don't think Sidney Outlaw can do that. Now, Sidney himself has a pretty good submission record as well, and pretty good on the ground with half of his wins coming by way of submission, but it's hard to unsee the Tawfiq Musayev knockout. It's hard to unsee the Michael Chandler knockout as well. He did beat Miles Jury in the middle of that, and Adam Bicolati, who's been on a good run since, or maybe thrown away one fight or lost one fight in the middle of it. But I like Mamedov to win this. As I said, the wrestling I think might be a little bit too much for him, and I think he's on a good run now. Has won his last 2 in a row, dropped out of Bellator, came back in, beat Nick Brown last time out, who's a good former regional champion. So I do think he'll beat Outlaw. Like, I think Outlaw, is he still ranked? Let me just look here. He is. He's ranked number 6 at the moment. It's number 6 against number 7. I think Outlaw had maybe a bit of a false ranking there for a while, and I do think Mamedov will kind of fix that, if I'm being honest. Then we've Lucas Almeida versus Weber Brennan. Lucas Almeida versus Weber Brennan. Lucas Brennan against Weber Almeida. I almost got that one right. But look, 23 years of age, Brennan, with 8 fights into his career. He's another one of these unbelievable prospects that Bellator have. He's 6 submissions. But again, this is a massive jump up in quality. You know, all of his fights have been in Bellator so far, and I'd say if you looked at his Sherdog page, you might know too many of the lads who he's fought against. But for Weber Almeida, who is the really good on the ground, but you look at his record, he's a lot of knockouts as well. And I suppose he hasn't been in there with the best either. But now they're getting an opportunity to, I suppose, take the spot and go forward. I will probably go for Brennan in that one as well. I just think if he gets top position, Almeida can hit very, very hard. He's a few first round knockouts. His leg kicks are also very, very good. I think he has one. He does, yeah. He's a leg kick TKO back at Bellator 278. But yeah, I like Brennan in that one. One fight I'm very interested in, and this seems to be a running team for Bellator recently. They're putting, like Rosta against Jeffery, they're putting their younger prospects in against tough guys, and they're moving them up, and I like that. So Jaylon Bates, new breed, 7-0, is going in there against Enrique Barzola. Now, he beat Jordan Lugo last time out and looked good in it. It was a split decision, but he looked very, very good in it. Whereas Barzola, he hasn't been on the most amazing run over the last while. He lost 2 of his last 3, but oh God, anyone who listens to these previews knows how much I like Enrique Barzola. I love his style, and it's a very tough matchup, I think, for Bates, because Barzola can stop a takedown as well. He's only been submitted once in his near 30 fight career, so he's not a guy you're just going to take down and submit. He's Bates is still not yet to get a knockout. He's all submissions in his finishes so far in his career, and I don't think Barzola will be that easily finished. So you know what, I'll be very, very interested to see when the prices come out in this one. If Barzola is the underdog here, I think we might be having a look at that one, but I'm gonna go for Barzola on that. I think there'll be, I do, like, here's my prediction. I think one of the prospects will be shocked. Kamaka is fighting. I believe I actually just saw him tweeting a day or two ago about his opponent maybe falling out, so we'll hold off on that one. Hopefully by the time this comes out, there will be another opponent for him. But there are some very interesting fights on the undercard as well. Sullivan Cauley is fighting 6-6 Hamza Salim. Now, I'm not sure, maybe that's on short notice or something, but Cauley did lose his last fight to Luke Traynor, and I don't see any harm in him taking a bit of a step back after that, so I'm happy that's happening there. I do think he will win that one. Dayana Silva against Katerina Shakalova. Look, Silva, I suppose, has been in against some of the top dogs, I suppose, in the women's featherweight division, and at 10-8, I suppose now is the time maybe to make a new name off of her, and Shakalova may just be that at 7-1 coming out of the Ukraine. It was only her second fight that she lost, and she's won 3 fights over in FEN now, and coming over here to I suppose join this division, which badly needs women's featherweights. And we've seen with Sarah McMahon coming in, but Sarah Collins as well, isn't it, that's fighting Sinead Kavanagh coming up here. There has been some new breed coming in over there, so I do think Shakalova will win that one, and if she does, I think she will be quickly up towards the rankings in that division. Same could be said maybe for Dayana Avsaragova, who's fighting Justine Kish. Like, Avsaragova 6-0 against Kish, who's 8-6, but I think the Kish record is a bit it doesn't tell the whole picture there. Look, she's lost to Dayana Bennett a couple of times. She's lost to the likes of Felice Herrig back in the day, Tracy Cortez. It's only very good people. Like, she's beaten Alima McFarlane in her second Bellator outing, but you know, for Avsaragova, it's this big I suppose move forward in her career as well. Now, she did fight Alejandra Lara last time out, which you could say was that, but that was a split decision. Maybe not the best performance, but I think if she beats Kish, there's no holding her back after that, and she will be on the way forward. Although, you know, I think slowly might be better off with Avsaragova there. Two guys I really like, Vladimir Tokov and Alfie Davis, are also on the card. Alfie Davis fighting Alan Cruz. I like him there. I like Tokov to win against Jairo Pacheco as well. Josh Hill is back. He fights Kasimova. Jordan Oliver is debuting against Andro Triolo, as is Michael Blockus against Ellie Mefford. You know, I see Jordan Oliver there, and I'm sure our wrestling cohort will tell you more about him, but he's definitely an exciting one to look forward to. He's fighting at featherweight. And a fight I really like as well at bantamweight, Leandro Higo versus Nikita Mikhailov. Like, he goes on this card against Mikhailov, which it is a fight that makes sense, right? But like, James Gallagher and Higo were kind of calling each other out for a while. Brian Moore's fighting in a few weeks. He was calling Higo out for a while. Really not sure why this fight is happening, although it's a good fight. Like, Higo did lose to Sabatello last time out to break a 4-fight win streak, 3-fight win streak. The last two of which were Darian Caldwell and Ricky Bandejas, so that was pretty good. When Mikhailov came in, he looked really good in his Bellator debut. You know, beating Brian Moore. Did lose to the Barzola, who's also on this card, but did beat Caldwell last time out as well. So interesting. This bantamweight division is, you know, it's kind of a one that it's hard to rank people in. That there are a good few bantamweight fights on this now at the moment as well. Like, we have Pettis and Mix, the two champions, and we've Satsar Kaleta, Magomedov with a great win last week. Haraguchi, who's gone down to 125, obviously fought there last week as well. Then Sabatello, who lost Higo, Barzola, Bates, and Mikhailov. So James Gallagher gets a big win here at the weekend. He could be back in that mix as well if a couple of lads maybe get losses. So very interesting weekend for the bantamweight division. There's lots. Let me just see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights at bantamweight, is it, on this card? So a lot of movement at bantamweight at Bellator 298. Let's call it Bellator 298, the Knights of Bantamweight. So all right, I will leave it there, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in. Should be a very, very good card, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. If you wouldn't mind, on the way out, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Let me know what fight you like the best. Let me know what you think of this card. If I got any of my analysis wrong or anything like that, let me know as well. And give us a thumbs up. You know, it helps spread the word. If you can click the subscribe button as well, that'd be absolutely fantastic. And you know, it's all free, so why not? I will leave it there. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and we'll see you all next time.